foot was going the other way, I thought, okay, how bad is this injury? Obviously, though, he came back, everything was all good. But that could have been a very, very scary situation with them already having injuries. And then with the Looney injury, I thought Looney's head bounced off the floor. That's what when I first seen him fall to the ground, I thought his head bounced off the floor, but it was actually his shoulder more so is what the issue was. Van Fleet was on fire the first half, had 12. Van Fleet, after he had that baby, I'm sure Nick Nurse came to everybody and said, hey, look, around playoff time, if y'all want to have a baby, I'm all good with that. If that's how y'all go play. But Van Fleet has been doing this thing throughout the playoffs regardless. But in these finals, he's been giving them quality points off the bench. He had 12. 12 in the first half. Much respect to Van Fleet. Kawhi had 16. Klay had 18. Steph had 16. This is at halftime. Toronto up by 5. Let me know what you guys' thoughts were at halftime. At halftime, I was still leaning towards Toronto winning this game because they were up by 5. They clearly had the momentum, even though the Warriors had a surge. Gasol and Siakam and Danny Green, Lowry did nothing. Can they stay consistent is the question. True. And that's been the knock on them. That's been the question about them. Cool Sale says Too Short, Hammer, Angie B, Oaktown 357, and E40 will be courtside. You right about that. The Loonies, they're gonna get everybody out there. I'm from the Bay Area, so I grew up there. They're gonna have everybody there. And that's gonna be a sight to see. And I wonder if Drake's gonna sit courtside. I'm very interested to see how he's gonna act when he gets to the town. Because you can act like that when you're in Toronto. But when you get to the town, you can act the same way. That's the question. Okay, so Iggy comes back. Andre Iguodala comes back in the game. I was thinking to myself, is he coming back or not? But he did. You know what he did at the end of the game. I want to take a quick pause to say Mark Jackson has some of the best one-liners in sports history. His one-liners always give me a laugh. There was one I didn't write it down. There was one he said last night that had me and my wife laughing. And that's Mark Jackson continues to do his thing, man. I don't know if he wants another coaching job, but I do know that he is good at what he does. And I think him and Van Gundy do a good job together when it comes to calling the games. All right, so 5 minutes, 40 seconds in the third was the first time Toronto scored in the second half. 20-0 run. If you let that happen to this Warriors team, I guarantee you're going to lose. You cannot leave the door open. You cannot give them any opportunities. And they gave them every single opportunity possible. And like Chauncey Billups, or it was Jalen Rose has said it, they basically wanted them. I'm not going to say they gave up, but I'm going to say they played to not lose. They played to not lose. They played calm. They played like they didn't have any spunk. Kawhi, I know Kawhi is chill, but Kawhi played, I don't know, to me he played a little bit different. He had 34. He was 2 for 9 from the 3. But he seemed just kind of gingerly as he was playing. So I don't know if anything's going on with him. You remember he had a slight knee injury. Nothing came of it, but that doesn't mean it can't be an issue. Shout out to 334 Bama boy in the building. I'm surprised you don't have how many days left to Bama season starts. Raptors had their chances, got a lot of looks, couldn't connect, says Courtney. The Dubs are locked in and their experience showed in the third. Says my pop, shout out to Rough Buff. Chief says, the hell with the town. Sports the Hill says, Chief, tell him why you mad, son. Yeah. You're not going to get out of this one, Chief. The Warriors are going to win. I don't say that because of game 1 or 2. I just say that because on paper they're better, even without KD. Shout out to Larry B. IE Sports Radio. Make sure to click on that Avi right there so you can follow the great network he has. Mark Jackson, Mama call him Clay, I'ma call him Clay. Yeah, that was a good one right there. Curry had a fever of 126. I don't know if he had that's a little high, Cool Sale. That's a little high. Looney hurt his shoulder, KD out, Clay hurt his hamstring. AI hurt his calf, Cousins played on one leg, and Golden State still beat the Dinosaurs. Says Cool Sale. Ben, stop that, man. They have 2 injured, says Chief. Like, if you look at this game, and if you look at Toronto's confidence, it's got to be shot. It has to be shot. So watch as we go into the fourth quarter. We had an Andrew Bogut. Sighting. I thought he had the jumpsuit on with just regular street clothes under it because he hadn't even stepped on the floor in the finals. He came into the game because they needed him. He had to play. Looney was out for the third. We had some back and forth in the fourth quarter. And that back and forth in the fourth quarter is what brought Toronto back into the game after being down by so many. But again, at the end of the day, it was not enough. And we'll talk about that last play of the game because that could have changed things. And the Raptors led the fourth quarter in scoring, 24-21. Third quarter Warriors, I mean, we talk about this, but it's the truth. They outscored the Raptors 34-21. Third quarter Warriors. They play as if the third quarter is the only quarter that matters. That's how they play. The end of the second and the third quarter is the only time that matters. That's how they play. Toronto was down by 8 and Toronto couldn't score on 8 straight possessions. All they did was come back and jack up 3, says 334. Facts. You are not that team, okay? The Raptors may be able to do that every once in a while, but you're not that team. Gasol, stop shooting threes. Yes, you did it one game, but that doesn't mean that you're a 3-point threat. So you, stop, Gasol. If you're going to go 3 for 3 against the Warriors, you're going to lose. That's not something I'm making up. That's not something I'm saying to be cute. It's true. If you go 3 for 3 with the Warriors, you're going to lose. They shot 28.9% about the Raptors. They had 11 threes. The Warriors had 13. Quinn Cook was 3 for 6. He gave them some key points. Everybody on this team played except Jacob Evans. McKinney giving you minutes. Looney giving you minutes. Go to the Raptor side. Van Fleet had 38 minutes off the bench. Jeremy Lin didn't play. Patrick McCaw, Jordy Meeks, OG Oyomba, and the other kid, I think this is Chris Bozier. None of those guys seen the floor. And that is a question mark. How truly deep are the Raptors? Because they only played 3 off their bench. Shout out to DJ Jam and Jackie, MCDE. Make sure to click and follow her. She had a great show this weekend. DJ Knox in the building. Courtney says Toronto needed both of these games. Yeah, I had a feeling that, and I said this, I said Toronto was going to win one of two in Toronto, which they did. Now you got to go back to the Bay with the same crowd roar that was in Toronto. It's the same thing you're going to get when you come over to Oakland. And I think they got to win at least one. If they can win two, that'd be great. I don't see them doing that. But they have to win at least one to make this whole thing interesting. Kawhi hockey checked Looney. Where are the refs on these fouls? Both sides, man. Steph was leaning into a guy. He basically backed up into, I think that was Gasol or somebody. That's not a foul to me. Same thing with Kawhi. Kawhi ran over Looney. Kawhi ran over like two other people, and they called a foul. So the fouls aren't being called both ways. I do think home court advantage is a real thing, and home court advantage has definitely helped out Toronto on some calls. But at the end of the day, if you jump into someone, that should not be a foul. That's you creating contact. You creating contact should not be a foul on the other person. You could call it a charge if you're leaning forward into somebody else. In my opinion, it'll never get called that way, though. It'll never get called as a charge. But you got to play the hands that you're dealt, and if you get that call, keep doing it. Keep doing it until you don't get the call. That's the ref's fault. That's not Steph's fault. That's not Kawhi's fault. That's the ref's fault. If you don't want to make that call, you just continue to do the same thing over and over again. Hey, it's not on me. All right, so I was loving the back and forth, like I said, in the fourth quarter. Clay, I don't know if it's a hamstring, if it's just soreness, but after the game, he had ice on the front and the back of his leg, and he was limping around. Curry with the BS he be doing. Hey, Chief, you're right, but the refs need to call it. Clay's hamstring did not look good. According to the reports today, he is going to play, which we have game 3 on Wednesday. But the reports are saying that he's going to play. He's not expected to miss time. We'll see what truly does happen and how well he's going to be. Lowry fouls out with 4 minutes left. Again, you're a star player on this team. I get it. This is the finals. I get it. You want to be aggressive. I get all of those things. But you fouling out affects your team. And that's a huge part of the problem. He's fouled out twice. I know for sure twice in the playoffs. I don't know if it's more than that. But I do have to give it to Lowry on his defense, though. He's been playing lockdown D. He's been getting charges. He hasn't really been a guy this series to score 30 points. But he's been the guy to give you quality minutes and to give you key plays off the bench that don't equal on the stat sheet. And that's what ABM mentioned on the show on Friday. So big shout out to ABM for coming on the show. But that is a huge problem, and that is probably going to continue to be a problem in these finals. If he continues to foul out, which that does not, it doesn't help your team. It just doesn't, and you're going to have to figure out how to not be in that situation. And that's for Kyle Lowry and Nick Nurse to figure out. All right, so we get down to the end of the game. They call a tech on Steph for either threw the ball up in the air or he bounced it and it went up in the air. Does that deserve a tech? Does that truly deserve a technical foul? I don't care if it was him